Welcome to the Jboy Show, hosted by Jake Crain, the fastest growing sports show in the nation.
I'm Coach Hugh Freeze.
This is Super Bowl champion Brandon Graham.
Hey, this is DJ Shockley, and you're watching.
And thanks for watching the Jboy Show.
Hello, everybody, and thank you again for joining us on the Jboy Show. Make sure you're subscribed to our new YouTube channel. Going to keep pumping out the hits. Whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, we just appreciate you being here. Excited to bring you part 2 of our 14-part SEC spring reveal, kind of talk, intro into what is a huge part of the season, as I documented when we talked about Auburn the other day, and got a great guest to bring on to talk Alabama. But before we do, want to give a shout out to our partners at betonline.ag, where the online casino is always open. They've got a big March Madness challenge going on. Some great sharps. You're going to get them early, like I talk about all the time. These guys aren't playing around. They're not going to wait until the last second. They are going to gamble against you, which is that something you want to do, and I'm sure you are. That's a big part of it. So head over to betonline.ag today and tell them Jboy sent you. But excited, like I said, to bring on a guest that's unbelievably knowledgeable about the SEC, specifically Alabama. You can find him over at Tighter Insider. I'm going to let him plug that as well, which is a great forum. It's got an unbelievable forum. All sports, they're always talking recruiting. We all know that it never ends. And that is Mr. Rodney Orr. Rodney, what's up, my friend?
Hey, Jake. Appreciate you having me on. I hope you're doing well.
Hey, I am, man. And, whenever I can get you on and talk some Alabama SEC football, I'm always going to take that chance. And I want to start with just a generic question, one that I'm sure you've gotten a ton, whether it be on the website, whether it be in interviews. What are the biggest, outside of breaking in a new quarterback? We all know how talented Bryce Young is. You've heard about Paul Tyson, and I'll let you kind of go down that rabbit hole. But what are some of the biggest questions Alabama needs to have answered this spring from the personnel that they have on campus? I know they have a bunch of early enrollee offensive linemen as well.
Wow, I mean, it's the offense. So you look at that side of the ball. You've got new faces on the coaching staff, 4 new coaches there, assistants. Bill O'Brien, the offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. Doug Marrone, the offensive line coach. Jay Graham, yes, tight ends coach, also coaching special teams, and obviously Robert Gillespie, a running backs coach. And then, look at all the players you have to replace. You have to replace 3 Heisman finalists. Think about that. And the Heisman Trophy winner himself, Devontae Smith, and then, of course, Najee Harris and Mac Jones. You've got Landon Dickerson, the Outland winner, as the center that has to be replaced. You've got 2 other offensive linemen that have to be replaced. And then you have Jalen Waddle. Even though he missed a good part of last season, still, you've got to try to find a guy who can make plays like at least in the ballpark of what he could do. So a lot of things that they have to do offensively, get on the same page, get acclimated with each other, and then learn what they're going to do from Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, well, it's amazing. It seems like, Saban's running that, coach and rehab clinic, not from a, off the field crazy standpoint, some cases, but it's amazing how guys go there, whether they're former NFL head coaches, position coaches, just big name guys, even analysts. I mean, you look what he did for Butch Jones and you can go down the list. But I want to start at receiver because you lost a ton of production. You talk about Waddle, who was banged up for most of the year. I say banged up, broke his ankle. And then you have, Devontae Smith, obviously the Heisman winner, unbelievable production. But Alabama's recruited so well at the wide receiver position, it's almost a matter of who, not if. Is Xavier Williams a young guy that you're watching to be able to come on and again, not replace those guys fully because that's asking a lot, but who are some names? I know Xavier's one of them that you're looking at. Billingsley coming back is big as well, just in that realm that can step up, maybe a playmaker that people outside of Alabama fans in that base may have heard about.
Yeah, I think Xavier Williams is a guy that's been around. This is going into his 3rd or 4th year. I mean, he's going to be, a redshirt junior, actually. Yeah. Xavier's a guy that last year at the end of the year, he played in all those key games, Florida, Notre Dame, Ohio State, made a couple of key catches in those games. And this is his opportunity, a great opportunity for him. We'll see how he kind of steps up. And then, obviously you got Mechie and Slade Bolden back, but, what does Javon Baker do with this opportunity? Yeah. I think that's a good question. He played some. Will Trayshawn Holden, another freshman from last year, what about he and Tyu Jones-Bell? Those are 2 guys who are going to have opportunities. I'll tell you what, they're going to be feeling some heat, though, because already here, prepared to go through spring practice, you've got Agiye Paul, Ja'Cory Brooks, a couple of highly recruited, big physical wide receivers. And then you have the guy that can kind of do it all, an all-purpose slot type guy in Christian Leary. So those young freshmen incoming are certainly, they're going to push these guys, Jake. There's no question about that. And again, I think you're right about the talent that these guys have, the potential that they have. But, experience is so important.
It's king.
So important.
It's king.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Nick Saban really puts a premium on experience. So I think this is, with John Mechie, Slade Bolden, you mentioned Xavier Williams and the other freshmen that were here last year. Those guys, they're going to get their opportunities this spring.
Yeah, and again, it's going to be very interesting. And it's amazing when you build that type of depth that Nick Saban has and they have on offense, how the cream kind of rises to the top, and you get some guys that come in early, some young guys that are hungry. That not only pushes the older guys, but it pushes the younger guys as well. And you talk about, the spring is so huge, and I think it's actually overrated. I think fans overrate it. The 8A games are overrated. It's like the Senior Bowl. The games are not nearly as important as the practices. That's why you see guys getting pulled early in that spring game. Coaches are really just trying to make it through it. There may be a few positions that they're evaluating that are left. Want to see some of the guys in the stadium with the lights on, especially the young guys. But, replacing Mac Jones and something that separated Mac and the receivers last year, and I could even say running backs, the way they were able to utilize them in the passing game, especially Najee, is the chemistry. And that's something that Bryce Young, who we're obviously looking at is most likely going to be the guy, has to develop, not only with the receivers that have been there and that have worked with the twos a little bit with Mechie and Slade Bolden. I know they mix it up a little bit in practice, but for those young guys, how big of a spotlight is on Bryce Young? How much competition is he really facing at quarterback? And do you expect Bryce Young to be the guy? They made him out to be the heir apparent last year. Is he going to take the first snap against Miami, you think?
Well, let's go back to last spring when he was an early enrollee, and the day that spring practice was supposed to begin on March 13th, it was canceled. Greg Sankey stepped in and said no spring practice at any SEC school. So he missed out on 15 opportunities last spring. And then you saw what happened after that. Eventually the teams got back on campus in June here in the SEC. And what happened, though, Jake, that a lot of people don't know is that when they got into August camp, obviously Bryce had missed 3 scrimmage opportunities in the spring. That's a lot of development opportunity. Okay, so then they get into August camp, and he gets sick, and he misses 10 days. He misses they had a half a scrimmage. One practice was a half a scrimmage, and then he missed another full scrimmage. He got in one scrimmage before the start of the season. Wow. So Bryce really missed a ton of developmental opportunities last year. And, I thought he still played well when he had his chances last year, and they allowed him to do some things late in games, some of those games. So, this is really big for Bryce's development and many of the guys, obviously, but specifically Bryce, and he's extremely talented, obviously. I mean, I know that one former departed assistant on the offensive side said, listen, we think he was the real deal. We think he could have put up big numbers last year, if not for Mac. But, again, it's just a matter of getting some more development this spring. And to me, you asked me, do I think he'll be the guy that takes the snap? Assuming he's healthy and all of those things, I would probably say I would be a little surprised if Bryce Young wasn't the guy taking that first snap. And again, that's not taking anything away from Paul Tyson or even Jalen Milroe, the true freshman that is here now going through spring, going to go through spring. But I just think right now, let's look at it this way, Jake. Who's the only quarterback that took snaps last year other than Mac?
No,
it was Bryce Young.
Yeah, it's a great point.
It was Bryce Young. So, yeah, I think Bryce will be the guy. But I do think this, too. I do think the other guys are working extremely hard. I think Paul Tyson, he's a guy that has a right mindset. He's got some tools, and he's got a great work ethic.
Yeah, and it's something, too. We talk about experience is king. There's nothing like getting on the field during the fall and even at the games out of reach. And there were some moments last year, where you came in and did some really good things. You can see the talent there. And I had actually heard whispers, Rodney, that going into spring, and then I know they missed it, but that there was going to be a legitimate battle between Bryce Young and Mac Jones to see who was going to be the starting quarterback. And I was even told that Steve Sarkisian actually thought it may end up being Bryce Young. We obviously know how that turned out. It worked out pretty well for him, but you got to have at least two in this league. Obviously, you got to have a backup. I think that's something that's plagued Auburn and the level of competition that Alabama's been able to put together, not only in the quarterback room, but across the board. That's how you get players to improve. That's how you keep breeding that competitive culture. And that's ultimately how you put together a championship roster. And Rodney, while I want to stay on offense before we move to the defensive side, the offensive line, that's what, to me, the offensive line and the defensive line have been what have separated Alabama and some of these top tier teams. You look at Clemson, you look at Ohio State, and you look at the early enrollees. The class they signed last year was incredible. You got J.C. Latham, Terrence Ferguson, the Brockermeyer twins, all guys that are enrolling early. Jaden Roberts, I believe, is enrolling early as well. You may have to correct me on that, but how many of these young guys do you think are going to have a chance to come in and play early because they've got a bushel full of talent coming in from the recruiting apparatus?
Yeah, Jaden Roberts actually decided to wait until May.
Okay, he decided to wait.
Yeah, he's one of the only of the group, offensive line group, that decided to make wait until May. But as you look at the offensive line, they have some obviously talent coming back. You talked about how they've recruited well through the years. I mean, so you've got some guys, Darian Dalcourt, Pierce Quick has had an injury, had a little off-season procedure, I think, or maybe it was actually in the season when he had this procedure on his back that I think, that not yet public anyway. I'm not real sure what his availability for spring will be. So, but Javian Cohen's a guy that really flashed last year as a true freshman when he got his opportunities. Damian George is another one at right tackle who flashed quite a bit. You got Tommy Brown back, who's been in the program for 3 years now. He's worked at tackle, right tackle, and also guard. He could compete at maybe one of those guard spots, left guard. You got Ekiyor back at right guard. Now, remember, they swapped people around on several occasions. Ekiyor has played left guard. He's played center. He's played right guard. That center spot's open. I think Chris Owens, who finished the season, as you remember, will probably continue to handle that center spot. That's my guess. Darian Dalcourt's a really promising player. He just hasn't been able to get on the field in a starting role yet. He could play center. He could play guard. So you got to get the drift. There's a lot of options. And I do believe Evan Neal will flip over from right tackle to left tackle. So that could open that right tackle spot. Could it be J.C. Latham, Tommy Brockermeyer? Listen, I think Brockermeyer and Latham both will probably also get looks at guard as well, because, and not that I think they're guards. I do think they're definitely tackles, but think about this. A couple of years ago, Evan Neal came in. The only spot for him to really slide in was left guard. He was not a guard, but he played left guard that season, moved out to right tackle, and I think they think he's the future left tackle. So, again, I think you're going to see a lot of combinations worked on the offensive line this spring.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the great part about that is, number one, having guys that are versatile protects you against injuries, but you want your best five out there. It's not, all right, well, this guy's a guard and this guy's a tackle.
Right.
Center's a little bit different because snapping and stepping, number one, is a lot harder than what people think it is, and being able to block, especially if you got a shade breathing down your neck. But you want your best five out there. You talk about Evan Neal sliding in the guard. I hate it when coaches say, oh, well, this guy's, he's a guard. There's some guys that are just guards, and that's fine. There's some guys that are tackles, and typically tackles should be able to play guard. If you're athletic enough and big enough to play tackle, you should be able to play guard. And what would you like more? Having an athletic guy out there. You already have two great tackles. You got a third tackle that's unreal. He's better than your left guard. You slide him in at left guard. Now you have another athletic guy pulling. You've got another guy that's going to be really good in pass protection against athletic three techs, two eyes, whatever you want to call it. So it's just smart. It's getting your best five out there. It's almost a basketball analogy a little bit. But speaking about options, if you're looking for sneakers, head over to ebay.com/sneakers today. They've got an unbelievable selection, exactly what you came to expect from eBay. Again, it doesn't matter what type of sneaker, they're going to have it. They have a group of authenticators. They're going to look at the tongue, the laces, the shoe, the box, the logo, everything to make sure you're getting what you want. No games, no gimmicks, just great sneakers at great prices. It's something at the end of the day You know that eBay name. You know you can trust it. So head over to ebay.com/sneakers today. We're here with Rodney Orr from Tighter Insider, our Bama spring preview. Hit a lot of the offense. And again, it's going to be interesting to see the combinations they put not only at offensive line, but out at receiver. Talked quarterbacks. Real quick, running backs and tight end. When you look at the stable that Alabama typically stays with, is it Brian Robinson and everybody else? Do you think a Roydell Stewart, somebody like that, can pop up and get some PT? Who are your top two right now, Rodney, heading into spring?
Well, I think obviously Brian coming back, Brian's going to have a great opportunity. I thought he ran as well as I've seen him at Alabama when in the Ohio State game. I mean, he made a couple of runs in that game that reminded me of Eddie Lacy. And I think the light's kind of gone off in Brian's head. Now this is his opportunity. Najee's gone. Brian's a 230-pound load, and he's got, he's been timed at 4.47 in the indoor facility. So Brian's got speed. I think this is his opportunity. But, and again, I'm saying Brian's the guy right now. And I believe Brian's going to take advantage of the opportunity. But a guy to really keep an eye on is Mcclellan. Okay. True freshman last year, had a really strong finish to the season. Jace is a natural, man. I'm telling you, this guy has got a lot of natural instinctive running ability that, just you don't find very often, really. I mean, I'm not saying he's Sean Alexander, but he's got those kind of just natural gifts to make people miss, subtle moves, the things that he does. I really like Jace McClellan. Roydell Williams is a really good-looking back, too, really quick, kind of a fire plug type guy, really strong. I like Roydell. Keelan Robinson is kind of the wild card, I think. He's a guy that came in here at about 185, 190 pounds, had explosive ability, tremendous speed. He opted out last year, decided to sit out and take the season off, which is, other guys did as well across the country. But Keelan came back. He worked out extremely hard, put on a lot of muscle. I think he's up around 210 pounds now. Supposedly still has that speed. So he's a guy to really keep an eye on. Keelan Robinson also can catch the ball extremely well. And then don't forget about Trey Sanders. Unfortunately, Trey was, Trey was really coming into his own. I thought he was going to be the kind of the X factor for Alabama down the stretch last season. He had a big game against Mississippi State, started flashing some speed, and he's got size and all those things. Then he had the car accident and missed the last several games, last 4 or 5 games for sure. And now he's in that rehab, and we really don't know if he'll be able to participate this season or not. Hopefully he will, but he's kind of a guy. And then also, they've got the 5-star Kamar Wheaton coming in. So, it's a loaded room. It's a loaded room.
Yeah, there's nothing left for one. It's amazing. We go on these position groups, and it's like, it's these two guys, but don't forget about this guy, and then wait, don't forget about this other 5-star. It's a great problem to have. And again, I love the way Brian Robinson runs. And, Alabama's obviously going to stay with a good stable full of backs. I'm just going to find it really interesting to see, really behind Brian, who's the guy that steps out of that pack, because he's going to have to earn it. Obviously, there's going to be nothing given. And that's something that I think Saban does a really good job of, is making those guys earn it regardless of who you are or where you're from. And moving to the defensive side, Rodney, we all know, up front, they lost a lot the year previous. I think they lost 88% of their pass rush, somewhere around there. You have guys like Will Anderson. And for some reason, I always want to call Roydell Williams Roydell Stewart. I don't know why. I do that all the time, Rodney. I don't know a Roydell Stewart. Maybe I'm thinking of Cordell Stewart, but Roydell Williams. But speaking about defense, you got Will Anderson. Let's talk about up front a little bit. We know what Alabama had last year. Who are they returning, and who are a few guys to keep an eye out for?
Well, they do have obviously a lot of talent up front. I thought Chris Allen really at that outside backer spot, the Sam spot, really started coming on, man. He started splashing that ability that we heard he had coming out of Baton Rouge 4 years ago. And so Chris Allen is back. Obviously, Will Anderson, I think he led I saw something yesterday. He led the country in pressures last year.
He's a first
rounder. Will Anderson. Yeah. Will Anderson's a fantastic-looking player. And then, on the defensive line, they have several guys, obviously Justin Aboybe, Byron Young. Those guys have gotten a valuable experience the last 2 years. DJ Dale is getting closer and closer to being maybe back to health. He struggled the last 2 years with those knees. And, I had an NFL defensive line coach tell me, and this is when DJ was, before he ever took a snap, he was a true freshman. He said number 94 is special. And then he had those knee issues, and he's never really been, who they projected him to be yet. And Feyzan Mathis, he really came on. I think Freddie Roach, defensive line coach, should be credited for, helping develop, Feyzan Mathis. He came on and was really strong the last 3 quarters of the season. Really like Feyzan Mathis as a leader up front. But the guy I think to really watch out for, Jake, I think he's a future star in waiting, and that is Timothy Smith on the interior. I think he's a dominant force. He's got a chance to be really, really a dominant force.
Yeah, and that's where the game's won and lost, and Bama's been able to stop people from getting to the quarterback. They're able to run the ball, and then they're able to rush with 4 and get pressure, and that's the key. And speaking about getting pressure, it eases the back end a little bit. Give me a couple names to watch in the back end. Obviously, you lose Surtain, who to me is the most complete corner. I think J.C. Horn is the most physical corner, but Patrick Surtain, without a doubt, to me is the most complete corner. Can play man, can press, can play zone, unbelievably flexible in his hips. Good, solid tacklers, got long speed and short speed. Who are some names to keep an eye on at the corner and safety spot?
Well, obviously Josh Job's back. I think he can position himself really highly there. But there's a lot of guys that are going to compete at that other corner spot, whether it's, Marcus Banks is a guy that's a young guy. I know they've got a lot of hope for. Brandon Turnage is another player that this is a big spring for him. JaQuincy McKinstry's here. Kool-Aid, the 5-star, going to go through spring practice. There's several others at that corner spot that I think that they're going to be able to choose from. Kareem Jackson's going to be coming in May, the JUCO player. A lot of people think he's.
I coach Kyrie. I coach Kyrie. He's the best. He was the best corner in the country last year. And I'll be honest with you, he could go play receiver and play for Alabama.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm glad you said that because I've been saying that for like the first time I ever saw his tape, what he could do. And I 100% agree with you. I mean, this guy now, Buddy Stevens, the head coach at East Mississippi, tells me he's a legit 6'3". He looks like it on film. I mean, it's just amazing. I do think Kareem Jackson could be a star at wide receiver. But, you got Kareem coming in. Look, and I love, obviously, Malachi Moore at that nickel spot was fantastic. I love Brian Branch. I really do. I just think he's a natural football player. I think Brian, certainly played that star position in the playoffs with Malachi injured and did a good job. I think he's got a chance at one of those safety spots with Jordan Battle, but also DeMarco Helms. They play those different packages, so you could have 4, 5, 6 DBs depending on the package. And, I think all of those guys have opportunities. And then you got Terry and Arnold coming in. He's not going to be here till May, but he's a guy that he thinks he's got a chance to play corner. He thinks he's got a chance to play at safety. So really versatile player coming in.
Yeah, I've had Terry on the show, and he does not lack confidence. Very smart, very talented, really good basketball player too as well. But Rodney, great stuff. I knew it was going to be awesome. You're a guy that does an unbelievable job of getting in depth. The players, what they're going to bring, the new guys, the returners. Tell everybody where they can find you at Tighter Insider Menace. Great stuff, and on social media as well.
Yes, TighterInsider.com. It's only $48 a year. You can get instant access with your credit card if you prefer. There's an address there to send a check. But, again, it gives you all our premium information, which was spring coming up. Obviously, the basketball run going on right now. Those things are, certainly going to be covered there right there at TighterInsider.com. But our all sports forum, it is like nonstop. Basketball, football. I mean, it really rolls there at TighterInsider.com.
Definitely. And real quick, before I let you go, how far does Bama get in the tourney?
Oh, wow.
Putting you on the spot, Rodney. Putting you on the spot.
I don't know what history means, but they've had one Elite 8 performance ever, or it's several Sweet 16s, as you know. But, Nate Oates just seems to be a different cat. I mean, he seems to be like really extremely confident, and he's prepared this team. But the real thing I like about them, Jake, and this, is mental toughness starting at the top. Nick Saban has it. I think Nate Oates has the same thing. This team's mentally tough. How far will they go? I'd love to say, hey, Jake, they're going to go to the Final Four, but you know how basketball is. One bad game and you're out.
Yeah.
You're out.
It's
we'll
crazy.
see.
Yeah, I think they got a pretty good draw. I think Texas in the Sweet 16, that would be a hell of a game between Alabama and Texas. But Rodney, great stuff. Everybody make sure you head over to TighterInsider.com, sign up. The forums are unbelievable. They're always putting out new content. We'll get you back on soon, Rodney. I really appreciate you, brother.
Hey, thank you, Jake. Take care.
Definitely, man. And I want to thank you guys for joining us as well. Make sure you head to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, Apple Podcasts, Spotify as well. Head to the jboyshow.com, get some merch. Got great stuff. Obviously got the white shirt there. Got the away hoodie, the black one, got the gray one as well. Working on some other stuff. We got masks, some really cool hats. At the end of the day, the trucker hat to me and the snapback are both pretty cool. So head over there. Make sure you purchase that and really appreciate you guys. It's been another edition of the Jboy Show. We're hitting the spring tour. We've got Auburn down. We've got Alabama down. Next up on the docket, Athens, baby. We're going to Georgia. Going to sprinkle a little love in the East and see how it works out. It's been another edition of the Jboy Show. Jboy's going, gone.
The Jboy Show is produced by David Cohn, Technical Director Dave Hammock, Creative Director David Culbertson, Audio Engineer Feyzan Shareef, Production Assistants Blaine Crain and Kyle Orr, Executive Producers Jake Crain, Vince Thompson, Steve Chamberlain, and David Cohn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, thejboyshow.com, for updates regarding our newest apparel and merch designs. Win the water cooler with the Jboy Show.